Let's work on Got Silk, the second to the last block in our Pumpkins and Potions quilt. It's time to work on Got Silk on page 19. I have the background fabric fused with interfacing and the body of the spider that I cut with my ScanNCut also has interfacing on the back. And then I have the batting. Let's get started. I've opened Embellishment Essential software, and to bring in the files, I can use the Merge Stitch File icon on the top right. However, an easier way is to open the folder where all of the files are kept. I will then open the quilting bundle. This uses Halloween 9, block by block, and I need the 2x10 size. I will drag and drop it into the hoop. I will go back to the Embroidery Files folder and drag and drop the Got Silk file. Now I will remove step 2 and 3 as I have done in the blocks before. There are 5 steps to the quilting. You can choose to do all 5, or you can skip steps right at the machine. The 5 steps are the placement for the batting, the tack down of the batting, the placement of the fabric, the tack down of the fabric, and then the quilting. I cut my batting exactly to size, so step 2 is the tack down of the batting, and that is a step I do not need. Step 3 is the placement of the fabric, and that is just 1/4 of an inch past the batting, and our fabric is much larger, and so that's a step that I also do not need. I will select step 2, hold my shift key down, select step 3, and hit delete on my keyboard. Now this file also has some of these black stitching lines, and these are actually trimming lines, and so these are lines that I am not going to delete. I've deleted from blocks in the past, but this is kind of an odd, long, skinny shape, and so they are having these 2 stitching lines to help with cutting the block to size. These are the little center marks, and then this would be the width or the height if the block is turned correctly. And so I will be stitching those. They are right along this line that is the fabric tack down, but sometimes after you've quilted and done all of the embroidery, that may pull in a little bit. So the very last step would be these 2 stitching lines or these 2 trimming lines. So I am going to leave those. So now I will go to File, Save Stitch File As, and name the file. I will put it in my Combined Files folder and save it, and then take it to my USB and save so I can take it to my machine. I will go to Embroidery, to my USB, and to my Combined Files folder. And I will choose the Got Silk and hit Set. Now I am using my 7x12, and I am going to go ahead and choose Embroidery, then go to Layout. I am going to move it to the top and all the way to the left. That way I'm saving as much stabilizer as I can over here. I won't be using this for anymore for this project. However, this might be enough to put in my 4x4 hoop for something else. So that's why I'm moving it all the way to the left. Let's start this block. wanted to mention something about the quilting bundles that you buy from Kimberbell. They are an optional purchase, but most of their quilts have a quilting bundle specifically for that quilt. And while you can use any quilting design from any company, you know, if you can fit it in the block, you can do that. However, I wanted to point out that with the quilting bundles for a specific quilt, they take elements from the appliques, for example, and put them into the quilting. So you can see right here, this little jack-o'-lantern, this little ghost looks just like our little ghost one, our first ghost that we did. Remember the 31 block? This is exactly those same 31 letters. And then of course this cute little jack-o'-lantern that's also from the jack-o'-lantern block. And I just wanted to point that out, how pretty cool and unique that you have quilting that matches the designs of the quilt. But again, any quilting design from any company will work. Here is the got silk block. I have not taken the basting stitches out. I will leave those in to cut this block. I wanted to show what a great stitch this text is. It's like a distressed feel. It's not a satin stitch. It's like lines of a triple stitch. It's really cool. But I wanted you to notice that these trimming guides that were the very last step, you can see on the basting on this one, it is pulled in a little bit. And again, that's a reason why you don't automatically cut on the basting lines when you're cutting a block out, because sometimes they do pull in. This one down here is just right. It's right on the basting. In theory, this should be, but we will use these dark lines when we go to cut the block, because again, this is an odd shaped block. There's not an orange pop ruler that's exactly this size. So I'm going to get this pressed out. I am not going to take the stabilizer out. I will cut and then remove the basting and then take the rest out of the seam allowance. But for now, I'm just going to press and get this cut. To cut this block, I'm going to use a large 8.5 by 10.5 inch orange pop ruler and just a regular ruler. So this ruler is 10.5 inches wide. And so if I line the inside edges up with the basting, that's the width of my block. You can double check on the ruler. I'm not sure if you can see it. There is a little triangle that designates the center, and that's what would line up to those center tick marks. And that makes the ruler just right on the sides of those bastings. So I'm going to move that up, and I am first going to cut this width. Get some of this out of the way. So now we've got the width correct, and for the height of the block, if we go back to our dark trimming lines and line it up right along that, you'll see that it is exactly 2.5 inches, and that's exactly the width that we need. So I am going to start with this one that is correct. I'm just taking a regular ruler, and I'm going to line it up right along that stitching. Now I am going to put my ruler at 2.5 and make sure that all the way down I'm lined up with the 2.5. Again, I can just line it up, but because it goes right along that purple stitching, but I am double checking that the 2.5 inch is lined up and that I'm straight the whole way, and it does line up right with that purple stitching. And so there is my block. I am going to take out this little bit of basting stitch that's still in, and then I am going to see if I find a piece without that. I am going to then trim away the excess stabilizer. Then our block is done.